Then I'll go ahead and call to order the Air Affordable Housing Trust Board meeting for Wednesday, August 27th, 2025, in accordance with Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. Public bodies otherwise governed by the open meeting law are temporarily relieved from the requirement that meetings be held in public places, open and physically accessible to the public, so long as measures are taken to ensure public access to the body's deliberations through adequate alternative means. This meeting of the Air Affordable Housing Trust will be live on Zoom. The public may participate remote by joining Zoom meeting ID number 818-0509-7403 or by calling 929-205-6099 for additional information about remote participation. Please contact Alicia Hersey at ahersey@air.ma.us or 978-772-8220, extension 142 prior to the meeting. First up will be approval of the agenda. Anybody having changes or edits?
I move we approve the agenda.
I'll second.
All right. Colleen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Cindy, how do you vote?
Aye.
And who seconded? Bob.
I did, Jonathan.
Jonathan seconded.
Sorry, Jonathan, how do you vote?
Aye.
And
Bob Williams.
then Bob, how do you vote? Yep. Bob, how do you vote?
I vote yay.
All right. And then the chair votes yes. The agenda is approved. All right. Next up will be approval of the meeting minutes from July 30th, 2025. Any changes or edits? Not seeing anybody or hearing, I'll go ahead and take a motion on the approval of the meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Bob, how do you vote?
Yes.
Cindy, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jonathan, how do you vote?
Abstain. I wasn't there for the meeting.
Okay. And Colleen, how do you vote?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The minutes are approved. That brings us to the election of officers, which we had tabled the last meeting to give James an opportunity to see if he wanted to serve as the vice chair again. Would we like to move forward with another candidate or table that again until James is able to join us? Anybody feel strongly?
Does anybody want? So can I just ask caller user number 1? Just want to make sure that's not Pat.
Caller user 1 is muted.
Can caller user 1 identify themselves, please?
Okay, no, it's not a problem. We're
Okay.
fine.
All right. Any thoughts or discussion on what we should do with about election of officers?
Can I ask through the chair to Alicia? Are we aware of James' intent? Is this an issue that he just couldn't make the meeting tonight, but he is interested, or do we know? Do we have any understanding of what his intent might be?
He has not made a number of meetings now. I think he has a lot of conflicting other things conflicting with it. I think he would be happy to serve. He's always happy to serve when he's here. We can put it off for another month and I can check in with him.
Sounds acceptable to me. Anybody else?
Yeah, I just want to say that my reluctance to raise my hand for the role is one, I want to know what James' intent is, and number two is, I'm brand new to the board, and I'd feel much more comfortable learning from you and learning the rules and how this works before I leapt into any of the executive roles.
Understandable. All right, then why don't we table that for one more month and we will, and Alicia, if you could check with James and then we'll put it on next month's agenda.
But do we need a motion?
Do you?
I don't think we do.
No. Mm-mm. No.
No, that's okay. All right, so that's going to bring us to the next item, which is the review of the proposed Air Affordable Housing Trust funding request application.
Did you want me? So we have not received anything more than what we originally requested, and we got the CPC application and a number of items that they sent to the CPC, but we still do not have a deed restriction or proposed deed restriction. Or a marketing and a fair marketing plan and a monitoring plan. We can, everything will be contingent on receiving that stuff that we go forward with. So I don't have anything more to add to the original application, which was for 240. I think that what we ended up choosing, well, I don't know what the next line is to review the proposed funding, no, the public information session. So I think we'll go on to, what do you think, Sean?
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I had sent over, we had done a draft tenant selection plan. We had done a draft affirmative fair housing marketing plan. I know that we had a sort of specimen based on past deals, affordability restriction, a LURA, whatever whatever you call it, that. And then I had taken and is it the plan that talks about, how we operate the property. And I'm really sorry. I had sent those, I think, to Connie, and I thought he was going to ship them along to you folks. So my apologies. I thought that was done. Now, they are all draft, to be finalized, all subject to what ELC,
Yes, of
will
course.
approve. But again, they're based on, the dozens of transactions that we've done in the past. And we are, the folks at DHCD, ELC, sent them a whole bunch of new information today. And first thing Tuesday morning, I am going to be hitting them really, really, really hard to pay attention to our deal, to start getting us. They promised they'd assign a project manager, a lawyer, and we'd start circulating the mass docs. So that I apologize you didn't get that stuff, and we're working really hard to finalize it all.
And sorry, Colleen, can you just remind us, what is the deadline for this application for the ask?
You mean this is different for us to go to, we're not going to CPC.
This is asking us, yes.
They're asking us for our funds, and then
Right.
CPC is having a separate funding
right.
request.
Yeah, sorry, I was confusing them.
Being on both committees, I'm trying to keep them straight in my head
Right,
too.
yes. All right, Jonathan, did you have a question?
Yes, I hate to be tedious, but can anyone give me a little summary about where we are up to this point regarding this?
Yeah, actually, Alicia,
Yep.
you could probably articulate it the best.
So last meeting, we voted to move this to a public information center session. and to continue to review the application. I'm
Alicia,
sorry,
forgive me.
I've been out of the office for about 4 days. So possibly, though I checked my email, I didn't see it there, but I'll go back and check. I'm checking from home, just got in. So possibly Connie did send it and I didn't get forwarded on to people. So we have asked for specific information, things like the deed restriction, there'll be LAU units, not LIP units. And so there's going to be a deed restriction, and then there's going to be marketing plans and monitoring systems and all that sort of thing. But that doesn't mean that we can't go forward with reviewing this with contingencies and things like that. And so if you have sent that on, Rick, we can get that off to people before we have our public information session.
Jonathan, I would also suggest looking at reading the meeting minutes, which were quite thorough about what was done, and give a good status of where we were at after the last meeting.
So I think that what we should do is, I had sent on to Connie the drafts of LAU units, and I'm sure he sent those on to you too, but it sounds like you're working on that. Correct, Rick? Okay.
You're muted.
Oops, I think
There we
he's
go.
muted.
Sorry,
Okay.
sorry. I couldn't find my button. I'm sorry. What the question was?
Well,
What
we
unit?
had sent samples of all the documents we were looking for.
Yes, and I had sent back a package.
Okay, very
I had
good.
asked. I had asked the lawyers, and I'm not sure that they sent it. They've got a draft affordability restriction document, but I did send, like I said, a draft that my guys did of the TSP, the Affordable Fair Housing Marketing Plan, and then I did there was a document that you attached that I think was the monitoring, talking about the property management company and who's going to staff it and what we're going to do. And I did mark that up to conform to how we work. So I did get you. I think I did get all that stuff. And again, just they're all works in progress. But I thought we should get you sort of the basics so that you could have a look.
And Jonathan, at our last meeting, we had there was initially the ask from the housing trust was for a portion of the overall total of 570,000. And as a trust, we had decided at the end of the meeting to move forward with the public input session, but with only one option for that, and that was to the ask of $5,000 per unit for 35 units is what we're planning to move forward to get public input on.
Thank you.
John, can I make a quick comment
Absolutely.
now that I just talked about having the two committees together in my head? The documents we're waiting on are probably ones that CPC needs, and the CPC public hearing is next week on Wednesday. So in addition to making sure we get them before the public info session, it also is probably pretty important. I'm sure Janet can probably nod and give a thumbs up on that too, that CPC gets it before the public hearing.
Agreed. I've got a cat tail and a cat jumping all over the place, so I do apologize. Yes. So, Rick, we definitely need those to review before the public hearing, because at the public hearing, if there's questions, that's the yes or no. Does it go to town meeting? So, okay. Thank you.
Alicia, please.
through the chair. So I think that right now, before we move on to planning for the public information session, does anybody have any new questions that they've come up with through, since the last meeting for DCT and Rick and Shockett? I think I have a question.
Sure. Please.
Okay. So I was going through those documents and getting them ready to send over to you. You're talking about the 35 units with vouchers being 60% AMI. How are you going to make a priority of 30% because they are subsidized? So are you going to make a priority for people who qualify lower than that to be first considered?
So we're working through that right now. I think that 6 of the units will be reserved for people below 50. And then the rest between 50 and 60. In the past, and I was looking at the last MRVP contract that we signed. And I think that had some preferences for additional preferences for below 50 and below 30. Subject to our investor not having a problem with that, right? Because the what was presented to them was, I believe, 35 below 60, of which 6 were going to be below 50. We're all for that, right? And the more we can help out, it's the MRVPs are meant for deep subsidy, and the more we can help out people who need deep subsidy, right, the happier we are. There's also been discussions with DCTA about voucher preference being given to the original tenants, who we define as people who moved in before Brady bought it and who are still living in unrenovated units. And I was counting this morning, and it moves, but I think there are 31 of those folks, and then that are below 60. There are then, by my count, 14 new tenants, households who are below 60. And the expectation is, given DCTA's preferences, that once we hit the 50%, the 6 at 50, that an original tenant at 51 will get preference over a new tenant at 49.
But what about an original tenant below 51? Because as in my calculations, you've got a number of original tenants below 51.
100%. We absolutely have that. And so, no, they will, the original tenants, all 31 original tenants below 60 will get the vouchers. And within that, there will be at least 6 below 50.
And how does EOHLC do this? Because I know that they don't always allow, do they have something that they can waive the fair marketing stuff that allows original tenants first preference?
Yes, and I got nervous about that, right? Great minds think alike. Because what DCTA is asking for, we're happy to accommodate, but only if EOHLC will do that. And I dug up a deal that's not dissimilar that we did in Boston. And there are a whole bunch of preferences that were negotiated that are not exactly what we'd be asking for here, given the differences in the projects. But they're all analogous. They're all of a piece. So that's why I need to get to somebody at DHCD who can say to me, right, yes, Rick, this is fine. and so I don't expect it to be a problem, but it's something that was one of the things that kept me up this weekend about how are we going to do this. But I think we can accommodate everyone without running afoul of MRVP rules. And what I'm told is, and I've got to get to ELC to tell us who the administrator will be, right? I don't know.
It will be
and maybe you
EOA.
guys know. Will it be the?
It will be EOHLC,
But they
probably.
But they
Probably.
designate, as I understand it, they would designate to Air Housing Authority or to one of the regional housing authorities. Maybe I have that wrong. That's what my people are telling me. But EOHLC will make the rules under which the administrator will operate. So yeah, it's absolutely right that ELC will make the rules.
Well, so I think it might end up being split because there's two different things happening. So you're going to have an administrator of the MVP vouchers, okay? Is that what they are, MVP vouchers? And the administration of,
MRVP.
you're talking about them being the monitoring and the, or are you talking about you guys being the monitoring? But then on the deed restrictions, it will probably be EOHLC.
Right.
So anytime you're working on the movement of that deed, then it will be got back to EOHLC.
Right.
And
My
that's just a
understanding.
guess.
Yeah, my understanding from again talking to my people who live and breathe this stuff. When I say administration, there'll be a housing authority administering. They'll keep the waiting lists, and they'll do the interviews and the certifications and the inspections.
Yes.
So I think that's how it goes, but it'll be according to whatever rules are agreed in our tenant selection plan, which will come down from on high at ELC.
So I have a follow-up question. The 40B that we're working with is talking about having 16 vouchers, and they're talking about having them at 30% AMI. And clearly, extremely low income vouchers are of great value. And I understand that you don't know how long the vouchers will be in place, but there could be two commitments. One of deed restriction that those 35 units will always be at 60% AMI or in perpetuity for 99 years. But you could also, as long as vouchers are there with them, deed a number of them towards extremely low 30% AMI. And that's something that, I think the housing trust would have some interest in. We can put that out for us to talk about.
So I don't see any problem with that, except for one that I'll mention. I don't think that the investors will have a problem with it. And I will bring that back to them. My biggest concern is we're going to get where we think and hope that we will get a 15 to 20 year MRVP contract. And we know we're going to be agreeing within, with the use agreement that we and our successors and assigns will forever take MRVP as long as it's available in form and substance materially similar to what's here today. What scares me is, say it's a 15-year contract and getting out to year 13 and having admitted 35 people below 30% of AMI, and then the subsidy goes away. So, and look, my investor and I will be long gone. Although when it's sold, right, they'll be thinking about that and how it might impact the value. But I'm concerned, less on the what are we going to do front when now we can only collect 30 of 60 from them based on the use restriction. But I'm more concerned with the human toll of that. You know, so there's the financial issue, which is, you know, painful, but then there's the human toll of people having to sleep in their cars. And that's why when we talk also, you know, we've talked about using some of your money to buy down 80% units to 60% units. You know, and I've just been really clear that whatever that number is, whenever we do that, we're going to have to be able to fund that differential, you know, forever, because I certainly don't want to be the property manager when Mrs. Jones gets told, you know, you know that, you know, $600 a month subsidy that you were getting. Well, sorry, we're out of money. So we're wide open to all of this, but you know, there are, you know, potential unintended consequences. So, you know, I guess I would say, if you folks tell us what you would like to see, then assuming that, you know, the investor, to the extent it's different than what the investor has invested in, I will certainly fight for it and bring it back. And we all know, to your point, that ELC would love the idea of more, you know, deeply subsidized units.
Mm-hmm.
So can I ask you, I mean, again, tell me what you would like me to, what would make you guys happy for me to go back to everybody with. My guess is the tenant association, who also is sort of a party to all of this, an important party. And a lot of what I'm saying is stuff that we've agreed to with them. You know, I'm sure they will be in favor of a lower income mix as well.
So Sean, do you want me to go forward with this?
Yeah, 1 second though. I just want to give Cindy a chance to ask her question first.
Thank you. Two things, actually. First is I have a very unstable connection, so if you lose me, you'll still have 4 people. Second, through you, Sean, to Rick, you're talking about 31. I'm unclear. Is that individuals or is that units? What's you talking
31
about?
households, 31 units, 31 households.
Okay.
So there are 35 unrenovated.
Right.
And some of the original tenants who were occupying those have left.
Mm-hmm.
So out of those, so there's 31 original households, 35 units. So the 4 other are those units that are occupied by new tenants, but
They are
still
occupied by
renovated?
new tenants, but they still income qualify.
Okay.
So they're below 60%. So and the 30, all of the 35 below 60 units will be identically equal to 35 voucher units.
So I have another question.
Yes, please.
This is where I'm not familiar with the MVP vouchers. What is aren't they usually at 50% or below, or?
Amazingly, I thought they were 60% or below. Amazingly, they're 80% or below.
Really?
Yep. I was shocked to hear that, but Dick Bauer,
And
you can confirm
how
that.
do they take people in? Because does a lower income have higher priority?
In the tenant selection plan that we did on the sort of similar deal has higher priorities for lower income. Exactly.
So I guess the next question is, and the next request is, could you get us the MVP voucher program guidelines?
Yes. Let me try to track those down. And again, I've been working with my folks to make sure that we're going to be able to do these kinds of things with these kinds of preferences. And so just today they sent me, like I said, an analogous agreement. But I think what they've told me is there's the standard program guidelines, and then there's what you negotiate with them. So I'm just trying to find the right person at ELC to have a conversation with, to make sure that, we're getting from them what we expect we're getting from them and what we need.
Okay.
Let me jump
So,
in here
yeah.
if I could. I'm Dick
Yes, thank
Fowler.
you, Dick.
I'm sorry. And I'm one of the lawyers representing DCTA. And I wanted to touch on a couple questions that people have asked about. So on the MRVP, it's primarily a tenant-based voucher system like Section 8 vouchers. So there's a set of standard rules, and those are easy for us to get to you. These are going to be project-based. They're going to go with the units. And as Rick said, some of those terms are going to be up for negotiation. So there may not be a formal set of rules that we can point to. It's stuff that's going to have to get worked out. And that's going to be true for tenant selection as well. So I know there have been questions about priorities here, and what about existing residents? And the usual rule for project-based is that existing residents get preference even if they don't necessarily qualify for the highest priority, because part of the goal is to avoid displacement. This has been, as you know, a 4-year campaign to be able to keep Devon's Crest affordable, and particularly keep it affordable for the existing residents who are still there. And so our hope and expectation, but not nailed down, is that HLC will agree the priorities, as Rick said, would be for the existing residents, even if they might not have that same priority coming in from outside, because the highest priority is to be able to make sure that they don't get displaced.
Okay.
Could you also,
Were there other loose ends that it would be helpful to have more information about?
I'm curious that you said for the MRVP that you're hoping it would be a 15 to 20-year contract. What does that mean? Like in a currently, if places have a contract, does it usually renew? And it's just that something you can't predict in the future, but
Yes.
okay.
I don't know how long, Dick, how long's the program been around? And it keeps renewing.
Okay.
Thank the Lord.
Yeah.
And it's a state program, not a federal program. So, it's probably a lot easier to go bang on Jamie's door than to go to Washington and try to get nameless, faceless HUD to give the money. And everybody kind of just assumes it's always going to get renewed.
Right. Okay. Any other questions? Comments? Concerns?
We've got, and I'm looking at my little spreadsheet here. The vast majority of the original tenants are below 50%. And it looks like there are 17 or 18 below 30%. So out of the gate, the profile is going to look really good, right? So then the only question becomes whether we sort of deed restrict that a turnover of 30 has to be a 30, a 50 has to be a 50, and a 60 has to be a 60, or what those numbers would be.
Okay.
And that's all I'm saying. And there can be a deed restriction. Everything you're talking about can be 60%, but if there's not vouchers, because you cannot maintain a property much less than that unless you have really deep subsidies.
Yep. We've got a problem if the vouchers go away. We've got a problem collecting only 30 of 60. So we've already factored that risk in.
Mm-hmm.
And it just gets worse if you've got, people who are further away from being able to pay 30 of 60. But we understand. And then our goals are totally aligned. The more lower income, deeply subsidized folks we can have, the better for everybody. And certainly the state would agree.
If just so say these units are deeded restricted for affordable for in perpetuity, 99 years, whatever. But what happens if a contract for MRVP is not renewed and then you're stuck without the subsidy, but you have these units that are still deed restricted?
We're then capped at 30% of 60%. So we would lose $200 or $400 a month in income on 35 units. And again, that's
Okay.
already sort of factored in when the investor looks at the risk. And
Yep.
hopefully the investor will have sold to DCTA in year 10. But one way or another, this investor will be out. So, they're underwriting the risk of something that could happen, 6 years after they own it. So it's on a net present value basis, they can deal with it.
Okay, just curious. Any other questions or comments on?
So I want to circle back if I could. So Rick had mentioned discussions about using some of this money to buy down some of the 80% units down to 60%. So then the rents, instead of being, we're talking now about the other 79, instead of the rents being 30% of 80%, they would come down to 30% of 60%. So they would be much, much more affordable. And the priority is to use as much as possible of the town money for that purpose. When we had been here before, we had talked about using money for renovations for the 35 units. Do you want to talk, Rick, about change in emphasis?
Yeah, and Dick, sorry, I meant to bring that up earlier, and we've been sort of moving on to other things, but we did want to raise that issue. We went back to DCTA and talked to a bunch of lawyers, including people with experience in public procurement and all of that. And there's all kinds of obstacles, and the lawyers can describe them better than I can, to using the 5,000 to pay for construction. You open up all kinds of procurement issues, 3 bids, and it's just a tiny part, right? So, 5,000 times 35 is 175,000 out of what's going to be a $5.5 or $6 million construction budget. So, what the tenants have been advocating for, that we thought would be something that the state would be eager to see, and that would be good for you folks and your mission, is to use all of the money that we get from the town, from whoever, to buy down units, to buy down units from 80% to 60%, so that perhaps at the end of when DCTA buys it in 10 years, there'll be 38 or 39 below 60 units, deed restricted forever, instead of just 35.
And I think when we covered this during our last meeting, it was that the same amount would get 1, possibly 2 additional units. Is that sound?
Yeah. So our total ask of 570 would probably get 5, maybe 6 additional units.
Have you come up with a number of what you need for that fund per unit to buy it down?
Yeah, and I think I think it was like 70,000 for a 2-bedroom and like 110 or 120 for a 3-bedroom.
And that would be for the 30 years.
Um, is that 30 years is what we said, right, Dick? Is that how we did that
Yes,
math?
that's what we agreed upon was
Yes,
30 years.
yes, yes.
And
What are
the
you, what is the deed restriction you're thinking of overall?
So I think if we were to go and buy down an 80 to 60, I think, Dick, correct me if I'm wrong, we would go in and amend the use restriction so that instead of specifying 35 below 60, it would then for 99 years be 36 below 60. And we would do that when as and if.
So if you were to get the full ask between this trust and CPC, it ideally, well, it would be 40 units below 60
Yeah,
if all that funding would
right, 40 or possibly 41.
Okay.
yeah.
Any questions or comments on that from the board or from the trust?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I'm clear. So if we're getting 40 to 41 units, all of those, even if CPC and Affordable Housing Trust funds didn't go towards those original 35 units, they would all 40 get deed restrictions for the 99 years or in perpetuity.
35 are deed restricted for 99 years, no matter what. And it's the incremental 5 or 6.
Right. And all of them, all 114 will get deed restricted, but at different levels. So as of now, it would be 35 get deed restricted at 60%, unless some of those come down. And then the other 79 would get deed restricted at 80%. That's as of now. If there were enough town money to buy down, let's say, 6 of the units from 80% to 60%, then there would be 41 would be deed restricted at 60%, and 73 would be deed restricted at 80%. So for each increment to buy down one, there'd be one more where the restriction would go down from 80% to 60%, which is a real big difference in affordability for the residents living there.
And then this funding ask was figured into your overall calculations. Is your investor then willing to put up the difference that, so now you don't have this $570,000 from the town. They're willing to make up that difference in construction costs if we decide to use the.
No, the before the 570, right? Our sources and uses balance, right? We we're going to spend X for the property. We're going to spend X for lawyers. We're going to spend Y for construction. And that all adds up to like 41 million. And the total sources that we're counting on are 15 million of debt, 15 million of equity, and 10.5 million of state soft debt. So the 570 is incremental. And I've convinced the investors to not think of it as their money, right? So, gee, we just now we need 570,000 less equity for the sources and uses to balance because we're getting it from someplace else. But to think of it as a sinking fund, if you will, to add more affordability over time. So it's not their money in any way, shape, or form.
Okay.
And without that money, then there's no source for additional affordability. But there'll be enough money to finish the buildings and pay the lawyers, because you always got to pay the lawyers.
Yes.
Rick, that construction budget really, with you and your team sharpening their pencils, came down.
So yes, so it came down, but other things went up. and we lost 300,000 of state money that we thought we were going to have. So I'm waiting, and we added some scope. There were a couple of units that weren't as well rehabbed as we thought of the existing units. So I'm waiting, and it's now getting to seriously to doing the drawings so they can actually put it out to bid to get us final numbers, which is about a month away. The other thing that I've learned that's giving me some pause, but we'll work through it, is that the investor's investor is very persnickety about what gets done up front. So I'm hopeful that they won't find additional work. So that's kind of a number that keeps moving around. And I'm comfortable right now that we're going to be okay. But we shall see.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, Connie?
Well, I think Sean's question was, if you take $570,000 of town money out of the construction budget, what's happening with the construction budget, basically. And
right.
My understanding, Rick, was that you and your team had really sharpened your pencils and you had been able to find some savings in the construction budget. I know that there's other things in flux, but you were confident that you could still do the renovations work for 570,000 less, basically.
Yeah, as we sit here today, but I'm still sitting there waiting for other stuff to come out of the blue and hit us on the head.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry, go ahead, Connie.
Sean, if I may, Sean, Chairman, I think tonight, if I might suggest, we've got this total ask of 570 from the town, and I don't have the exact number, but when we calculate what, say, 6 units, or making 6 of the 80% units, 60% units, whatever that exact dollar amount is, just so that we don't have, we're not like $20,000 short from the town or $10,000 over whatever that amount is. I would hope that the trust would consider adjusting whatever we get from it and CPA, whatever it would be recommending at town meeting, so we can just come up with an exact figure to do, say, 6 units, reducing them from that 80% affordability to 60%. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Do you think that for our public input session, you would have those numbers, be able to have that number?
I'm going to defer to Rick on that one.
The exact per unit number for 2 and 3 bedrooms?
Yeah.
Yeah. We can do that. I've calculated five different ways. Let me just figure out what looks like the best way. But again, that was sort of the ballpark that I recall.
Okay.
So I can have that. I'll have that tomorrow.
All right. Alicia? Alicia, you're still muted.
Sorry, just wanted to remind the trust that one of the things that we were concerned about last time is that to maintain our rental assistance program, we need to keep funds in our account. So that is something that, as we're looking at these numbers, because we're not going to go for our ask till the springtime. We don't want to muddy the waters while DCTA is going up in front of the CPC by having our own request from the CPC. So we're waiting till spring, but in that case, we do have to, our funds are a little bit different than they were shown before.
Yeah.
Because our rental assistance program, we need to be able to fund it for next year.
Alicia, could you give us an idea on what would be available? Just so that when Rick does the calculations, we can figure out if it's 6 units.
What we were talking about last time, which was 175, because we need 72,000 to do per year for the rental assistance program. So right in that 170, 175 range. And it's not impossible to come back another time as you move your project on and do another request. But we do have a couple more projects coming down the pike right now. Affordable unit housing projects coming down the pike that we anticipate getting some requests from too. So So right now, where we were last time, that 175 range was what we have if we don't go for an ask. And at this point, we can't go for an ask. We're too late to go for an ask for CPC. But I think that it's better for you guys that we're not on the ballot. We're not in front of town meeting this fall
Yeah.
while you guys are. So
I have a quick question. If you were to give us 175,000, would that be a loan?
no, it's a grant, I
It'll be
think.
yeah.
Okay. Because I was just on the phone with all the lawyers and the lender and equity and I know that Dick, we can take this offline. Abramowitz was thinking about it differently, and I do know we have to figure out. If we're a for-profit enterprise, so we have to pay taxes on a grant. So Abramowitz thought it was going to be a loan, a soft loan, like 0.1%, 99-year term accruing. So hold on. Sorry. Well, let us. We'll work through that. Look, one way or another, we'll figure it out.
Okay. Colleen?
Yeah, just a quick reminder as we talk about these numbers and what is getting asked for from both CPC and the Affordable Housing Trust. While there might be time to think about those numbers from the Housing Trust side, whatever we vote on at public hearing next week for CPC funds is what gets sent to town meeting. Town meeting can bring it down, but we can't bring it up at town meeting. So those numbers really are important for that CPC meeting next week.
Good point, Colleen. Thank you.
Could we get a little bit of clarification? So are we now locked in or are we not locked in until next week? This is for the CPC.
I'll let Janet weigh in. I think we just have to have whatever we vote on at next week's meeting is the final total. So it can be adjusted up until the meeting. Is that a true statement, Janet?
Through the chair?
Yes, yeah, please.
Okay, during the public hearing, we can put in a number of 570 and put the warrant at 570. At town meeting itself, we can reduce it to 375 should the trust do the 175. So right now, the application still stands for the public hearing of 570. Okay, Colleen and Dick, does that help you?
It does, yes. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, Janet, for purposes of the public hearing, we figured out that we actually needed 572,000 to reduce 6 units at 80% to 60%. Does that mean we can't adjust the ask at the public hearing that CPC is going to have?
You know what, Connie, I haven't had that happen. So with that, I need to verify, because right now what we have is the application. And that's what goes to the public hearing. And again, the application is 570.
And
so one good thing is the public hearing's happening on the 3rd. Your forum, your public information forum, information session, is going to happen on the 10th. And if need be, maybe that extra $2,000 might be able to come from the trust. I'm not certain.
Yeah.
So we couldn't amend the CPC application before the 3rd, is what I'm saying.
I believe, and like I say, I think we can. I'll double check, and I will let your team know, because I know I've got to get some stuff to you, Connie.
And what we'll do is get back to you. I mean, Rick said he may have numbers tomorrow, as soon as possible anyway, on what, say, 6 units, the fund for 6 units, reducing them from 80% to 60%, what that dollar nut will be.
because you'd probably be, all right, to the chair, just a quick question. Like if you're gonna look for 6 units, it would be three 2 bedrooms and three 3 bedrooms. Would you look at it that way, or? Because the 3 bedroom's gonna be more expensive for that sinking
I
fund.
think that's right. If I may, so I think it clearly does depend on what the unit mix is. Most of the units at Devon's Crest are 2 bedroom, although there are a number of 3 bedrooms. So my guess would be it probably wouldn't be 3 and 3. It might be 4 and 2 or 5 and 1.
I want to say we're at 92 twos and 22 threes.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so Sean, if, I'll go ahead and I'll put that in as a to-do, and I'll find out and I'll make sure that the trust knows.
Perfect.
And,
Thank you.
and then you all will know as well for DCTA.
But it sounds like if I could, from what was said, that as of this minute, the CPC ask is 570 by itself,
Mhm.
and then the trust is in addition to that. Not that we are expecting that the total will
That
would be
gives
more
us
than that, but that the 570 was left in for just this reason, so that we can figure out what a number is, and then the CPC will come down to match it. But if it ends up at, say, 572, as Connie said, that's okay, because there would be 400 and something out of CPC, which is well below the 570 number that's currently in the CPC application. Am I understanding that right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah,
So that leaves us some,
okay.
some wiggle room there.
okay.
Any other questions? Oh, sorry, Denise. Alicia?
So one of the things we had talked about is how valuable we think the vouchers are. Would you, and even if we were buying down more units, would you entertain contingency upon receiving the vouchers for the project?
Oh yeah. Without the vouchers, we don't have a project.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's not a problem if we put a contingency of that sort of thing in.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, without the vouchers, there's no project.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions from the trust before I open it up to
Sorry.
Denise? Go ahead.
Oh, Rick, did you want to say something before I talk?
No, I was waving at somebody on the street. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Um, so I was just curious, and I don't want a long drawn out, thing. I was just wondering, like, is it really hard to go to the public to get something like this approved? And can you make any suggestions to us, how we can present it to the public so that they don't get confused? They don't think it's a waste of money, like for instance, I'm thinking of Noah, like how did they ever have to go before the town publicly?
Yes.
Several
So
times.
oh, really? So,
Yeah.
Sean, what's your thought about that? Like, is there something, how can we present it to the town so that they're not looking down like, oh, this is a welfare thing, or, oh, we don't want to waste taxpayer money, all that kind of stuff. I'm just curious, like, what is your thought process about that?
Well, I think when we started this trust, I think you'll find that the town's been very supportive of making sure either creating affordable housing or helping people maintain, staying in their homes. So I think the way that you guys have presented it to us, and the benefits of having affordable housing, and that's what this really is doing, is it's allowing not only residents that are already there to remain there, but it's creating a stock of affordable housing in the town, which is very much needed.
Yeah.
So I think that's the message that people like, that resonates with people.
I think also really, I'm sorry, Sean.
No, absolutely.
I think that emphasizing that it gets us, I'm not sure whether it even gets us over the 10% mark that we need to hit as a town No, Alicia, it doesn't. Well, it's
Not
got to
over,
come,
but I guess it's closer.
close. It's got to come close between NOAA and this. I know we don't have NOAA yet, but um,
We'll
it's
get
a
into 9%.
oh, hey, that's
And
great.
10% is the golden
That's the
number.
goal. Yeah, that's the golden number to avoid having hostile developers come in and do whatever they want. So the more that people understand that it's not a matter of whether or not we have affordable housing in town, it's we have to have it or else we're vulnerable. So I think you guys have been doing a great job of explaining it.
And
I think that's a good point, Cindy, to bring up. Maybe that could be a point that could be either in the documentation to the town, I don't know, or whoever is going to talk about it. But I think that's a good point because I don't think, I don't think most people know about the percentages expected in towns or cities. So it might be, even if it's a one sentence or two sentence comment to have them realize, look, we have these mandates by the state and we're close to our mandates or something to that effect. That's the point.
Colleen and then Alicia.
Yeah, and I also think another important talking point to the town about this is that we as a town voted to adopt the Community Preservation Act and to have those funds. So these are not funds that are going to come out above and beyond what people are already putting in. These are funds that the town put in because we have a 3% surcharge. We get, additional money from the state. And so it's there to be used for affordable housing projects. And so this is us, putting that money to good use. And so I think that's another important thing. Sometimes people from the town get nervous, like, oh my gosh, now there's going to be more that we're being asked to put into taxes. This money is already there, and this is a type of project that can support. And then, the fact that it brings us closer to those percentages is valuable as well.
That's a good point, Colleen, and I appreciate your feedback because these are points that I think are important when we bring it to the town for them to to know that. So I'm glad. Thank you for bringing that point up, and Cindy too.
Alicia.
I think that anything that you have 60% or lower will be a much easier sell to the town than 80%. 80% is moderate income for Boston, Cambridge, and many, many people in this town are not at 80%. And I think the more you can focus on even lower than 60%, because even 60%, many people in this town will look at that and say, wait, I make less. And so I think that that is something that you should keep aware of.
Do people understand? This is my point about talking. Like to me, a lot of people don't know the AMI, the 60% AMI. Sometimes I don't know. Don't you think it's more presentable to people that don't have that understanding to talk different numbers? Like, what's your thought about that? Because
We talk about different numbers all the time. We do presentations, and a lot of people in this town do know the different numbers and are quite well versed on it.
Oh, okay. But I mean, there's probably a lot, but there's still some people that don't really have a clue about it in a way.
I think
But I agree.
I think Alicia, you make a very, very important point. The 60% number for a 4-person household is a number that I absolutely, Alicia, think people are going to say, holy crap, I don't make that.
Right.
I think we got to be really careful. Because, we're in this weird world where, you guys are considered to be in the Boston SMSA. I got properties in Leominster. I don't know, not too far away. And the 60% income is probably 30% less than Ayer.
Yep.
So, I think the points that Colleen and Cindy made are so right on. You've already paid these taxes. Nobody's going to ask you for more money. This is what
Right.
the money's there for. And oh, by the
Right.
way, there have been a bunch of studies showing that one of the failures of the CPA is that while it was meant largely for affordable housing, lots of cities and towns haven't spent the money. So good on you that you're going to spend it. And where they have, they're more likely to go buy a pristine field and call it open space preservation than to let a developer come in and build 100 affordable units and help that. So, I mean, you guys are awesome and exemplary in not being like so many of these cities and towns. But that's what I would stick on is the money's already been spent. It's going to get spent. Nobody's going to have to be taxed an extra dollar. And this is what we voted to voted to be part of CPA for, exactly this. In addition to all the other great points that Denise and everybody else has raised. But I would stay away from advertising what the 60% rents are.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay, Alicia?
no, sorry. I just want to say that one of the things that we talked about earlier was buying them down to 50 or even 30% some of those units. And the reason being is because 60% of family of four, 60% AMI is 99,240. And let me tell you, you go in there and talk to them about that and you'll get a no vote.
100%.
And so are you sure you don't want us to buy some down to 30 and 40 or 50 and 30? And it's just wondering.
What I think I will put together is whether it's perpetual or not. Like I said, what did I say? 17 or 8. I think I said that there's a really big number that are below 50 and a non-trivial number that are below 30 of the people who will count, at least in the beginning. And these are your friends and neighbors. You see them at the supermarket.
Yeah, it was 18 below 30 and 14 below 50.
Yeah. So, the original profile is going to be, very deeply subsidized for very low incomes. And then the only question is, again, can we get to some language that everybody can agree to say that in addition to the 6 below 50, we can have a tier below 30. And again, I'm all for that. I just got to sell it to the investor.
Sure.
Can I say one thing too? So, like, it's not always about a family of four with the amount of income, and we have, and it's per household. So it's like there could be like 3 people working, making $35,000 each, and that's like almost $100,000. So I think it's an important point to remind people that even though it sounds like a high income, like not the one person is making 100,000. It's a combination of household income.
A two-person household, it's right around 82,000, I think.
For a
So it does
family of
go
2.
down. And a one-person household, it's
67.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So I think that's an important point to bring up too, because like if they do hear like 100,000, it sounds like, wow, that is high, but we have to remember that could be 3 people making 30,000 each.
Okay. I'm gonna go with Alicia and then Dick, and then we're gonna move on to the
I'm
next
just going
item.
to give you a statistic.
Okay.
50% of heirs households make $100,000 or less. 50%. So just for your information.
Thanks, Alicia. Dick?
Thank you.
Dick, you're muted.
Thank you. So as Rick has said, he's going to take a look about whether out of the folks that were already there that we're talking about, whether some of those units can get reduced. That doesn't, in the short term, require money because the MRVPs will cover that. The question is sort of long-term commitment that goes with reducing those. For the folks who are not going to have MRVPs, each increment we take it down takes more money, which means fewer buy downs. So, maybe we could do 6 buy downs down to 60%. That same amount of money might only get us 3 buy downs to 50%. So we get a lower cap, we get lower rents, but for a smaller number of people. So we then have to think about the trade-offs. Is it better to have more units down to 60 or fewer units down to 50? There's no right answer, but I just wanted to note that there is a trade-off there.
I will
Yeah.
produce a grid, and on the left column will be 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom. In the across the top will be 50 and 60, and I will calculate the cost to buy down an 80 to a 60 for a 2-bedroom and 80 to a 60 for a 3-bedroom, and the same for a 50.
Okay.
Produce that tomorrow.
All right, great. Thank you. And I think I'm going to guess this pretty much covers most of the questions that we had, and it sounds like we're able to move forward to planning for the public information and listening session on 9/10. And I think it sounds like you guys, Denise had some good questions. You guys have a little bit of guidance from us on what might be most beneficial and appropriate for that public input session. And then if you can get us all the paperwork beforehand that Alicia talked about at the beginning.
Yep. And Alicia, you can confirm through Connie or with me directly what you have and what you don't have, and I'll make sure I get you everything you don't have.
Great.
Okay. Thank you all so very much. We are so grateful to you all.
All right. Any other questions, comments, or anything before we?
Thank you for your input. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And your support too.
All right. With that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
All right. Cindy, how do you vote?
Second. Oh,
Colleen?
Aye.
Oh, yes, set for a second. Yes, thank you. All right. Cindy, how do you vote?
aye.
Pauline, how do you vote?
Aye.
Jonathan, how do you vote?
Aye.
And is Bob still here? Looks like we lost Bob. Okay. And the chair says aye. All right. Thank you, everybody. We're adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.